This is the Speaking of Writers podcast. I'm Steve Richards. My guest today is one of America's most celebrated sports writers. Joe Posnanski is a #1 New York Times bestselling author, a 5-time National Sports Writer of the Year, and the author of the acclaimed books, including The Baseball 100, Paterno, and The Secret of Golf. Today, we're talking about his wonderful new book, Big Fan, Two Friends, 82,490 miles, and the wild, wonderful sports we love, co-written with Emmy Award-winning television creator Michael Schur. It's a funny, heartfelt, globe-spanning celebration of fandom, from baseball and football to darts, pickleball, which Joe loves, English soccer, Indigenous stickball, Taylor Swift, too, of course, and just about everything that brings passionate people together. I'm happy to have Joe Posnanski join me here on the Speaking of Writers podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Great to have you. So let's start with the title. It's Big Fan. At its heart, what inspired this journey?
Well, this was really Mike's idea. I get a call. So Mike and I have been friends for a very long time. And he called me up one day and said that he had gotten a video from a friend of his that he watched, and it was a video of the World Darts Championship, and it was basically these two guys who look like darts throwers uh, going after, they were playing in the semifinal round, and they were each throwing what is called a nine darter, a perfect round of darts. And they kind of kept throwing, and they each got eight perfect, and then the last one, one of them got it, and one of them didn't. But what struck him about the video, it's a very funny video. It's on YouTube, but I would recommend anybody go see it. But what struck him about the video was the fan reaction behind it. People were losing their minds. They were, pouring beer on each other and throwing napkins in the air, and losing their minds. And by the way, they were all dressed up as like minions and Harry Potters and Dumbledores and traffic cones. And what Mike thought as he saw this, and what he told me when he called me, he said, I have this weird feeling. I'm watching these lunatics, go and losing their minds. And I think they're just like us. I think that those fans are exactly what we are like when we are watching our teams play, when we are passionately involved in something that we love. I think they're just like us. And his suggestion was we travel around the world as it was, and find fans and write about what it means to be a fan. Write about what is at the heart of this thing that makes us crazy and brings us great joy, but also great heartbreak, and really get at the heart of fandom. And as soon as he suggested it, of course I was on board, and it led to this weird, wild adventure where we went around and chased fandom.
Yeah, this book isn't really about scores or championships. It's about why people care so deeply. You have covered sports for decades, Joe. Did traveling together change the way you think about being a fan?
I do think so. Yeah, I think that when you're writing about it as a sports writer, you're observing the fans. You're not really among them in that same way. You're obviously writing for fans, and you're trying to get in the spirit of fans. So when I was writing in Cincinnati, I was trying to get in the spirit of Reds fans and Bengals fans. And when I was in Kansas City, I was trying to get in the spirit of Chiefs fans and Royals fans. And some of that leaks into you for sure. I would consider myself now to be a Kansas City sports fan because I was there for so long. But it's still different. You're separated. Your focus is the story. Your focus is your work, and it's not the same. And this one was, there was nothing. It's like you said, we very purposely did not go to big events. For the most part, we very purposely did not like say, hey, we're gonna we're going to write about fans at the Super Bowl or fans at the Masters or fans at the, at the World Series, because that's not really what this was about. I think that what this was about is that everyday fandom that is everywhere and with all of us. And it's much more about seeing, a family of Bears fans at the Buffalo Wild Wings in Dallas, where we spent 8 hours, or going to the World Darts Championship and seeing these people in action, or going to Alaska and going to see a baseball game at midnight, a day game at midnight in Fairbanks, Alaska, because the sun doesn't go down there during the summer solstice. So it was much more about that, and really trying to grab at that thing, and I think a little bit of trying to understand ourselves and what it is that drives our own fandom, and I think we were able to get at some of that.
This project grew out of your longtime friendship with Michael and the hugely popular PosCast. The PosCast has been entertaining listeners for over a decade. What is it about your chemistry with Michael that continues to resonate?
Yeah, I would question how much we've been entertaining people. One of the things about the podcast is that we just kind of pretty much believe it is utterly meaningless and worthless. But we love doing it and have loved doing it forever. I think what I've heard from people and what we heard traveling around with this book even, is that it seems like we really like each other. And of course that is true. We really do like each other. We have been really good friends for a very long time. But I guess that's what comes across. I think what comes across, hopefully in this book for sure, but on the podcast, is that if the the microphones weren't on and you overheard a conversation between Mike and me, it would sound exactly the same as it does on the podcast. It's we came to be friends from very different. We're both writers, but we came at our friendship from very different parts of the world, right? I mean, he's a television writer and spends his time in writing rooms, writing with a bunch of other people. I'm a sports writer. Have spent my time in press boxes and various other places, writing by myself. And so we come at it from very different places, but I think our sort of sensibilities are the same. I think we both really believe in trying to pump a little, more joy into the world, and trying to find ways to be happy, and find happiness. And I think that both of us, that's how we see our job. So I think that's what comes across with the podcast. But again, as I say to everybody who comes up and talks about how much they like listening to it, I don't really understand it. I don't really understand what makes people really like it. But I'm thrilled that they do, because we would be doing it anyway. The great thing is, if nobody listened, we would still be doing it.
You mentioned the World Darts Championship earlier. You mentioned the Midnight Sun baseball game in Alaska, which it almost feels mythical. A couple
Yeah.
others I wanted to ask you about. The Indigenous stickball World Series.
Yeah.
That carries generations of history. What did you learn there that stayed with you?
Well, it was, first of all, just going to that. So that is in Philadelphia, Mississippi. It is part of the Choctaw Fair. They do it every year, and you have this sport that is, like you say, it's this ancient sport that it's real. The native name is Ishtaboli, which loosely translates to little brother of war. And the reason it's called that is because they used to play this game, which is, involves as many people as they can get on a field, each of them carrying two sticks. They've got a little ball that's the size of a golf ball that they're chasing around and trying to somehow grab that ball with these two sticks and throw it up against a post in the ground. They used to play this game in lieu of war. They would have, these disputes between the tribes, And rather than fighting, they would play this game to settle it. So it comes from an ancient place, and there's something very holy and sacred about that. But what sticks with me was talking to people about why it mattered to them, and you would hear people say it connects me to my ancestors. It connects me to my past. And what I thought about is that's kind of what all fandom does. It's not to that extent. That is the sort of ultimate extent of it. But being a longtime Cleveland fan connects me to my father, right? And connects me to my city, and connects me to a past of people like me, who grew up in Cleveland. I think everybody sort of connects their fandom to something in their childhood, to someone in their family, to it's not fully across the board, but the vast majority of people, I think, do connect to sports that way. And so seeing it like that, when you're seeing people who are truly, trying to find themselves. One of the people was talking about growing up in California as a member of the Choctaw tribe and not really knowing what that meant. He didn't know anybody else who was Native American. He didn't connect to anybody else who was Native American. And then he comes to Mississippi and becomes a part of this larger family and starts playing this sport that takes him to his history, and it truly changes him. And I think that's a profound thing.
Yeah, and you mentioned connection to fathers. I can't go into any stadium, whether it's Neyland Stadium in Knoxville now, because I'm based in Asheville, North Carolina, or any stadium. When I walk up the ramp, I still think of that first time my father took me to Shea Stadium. We were in the upper deck. They were terrible in the late 70s, and he's holding my hand, and how bright it was when I walked up the ramp and came out, and how big it was. But there's that connection.
Yeah, I mean that is, when I wrote Why We Love Baseball after the Baseball 100, what struck me was it's the only book I've ever written where I knew the title before I started writing the book. And it's because everybody kept coming up to me after the Baseball 100, which was incredibly flattering and
Yeah.
and 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 humbling. But everybody would come up to me to tell me that story of why they love baseball. And it was often exactly like your story about going to a ballpark with their father for the first time and seeing the grass for the first time. But it was many things, but it was always this, it was always beautiful. Each one of these stories about why we love the sports that we love. And so Big Fan is an extension of that because it's taking us into all these other games and all these other things, as you mentioned, Taylor Swift and other things that we are fans of. Um, but at the heart, it's the same. At the heart, it is, it's exactly like you say. You could walk to see, the checkerboard at Tennessee and think about Shea Stadium in 1979, and
Yes.
that's really special.
Yeah. All right, now to the elephant in the room, pickleball. They just built a huge
Sure.
facility. It's so huge now. Huge facility
Oh,
here in
oh,
Asheville, one of the biggest ones in
yeah.
the area, all over the place. You have admitted you're not exactly its biggest fan. Did playing
No,
change your opinion at all? Not at all.
no, no. I don't like pickleball at all. I don't like anything. I don't like the sport. I don't like the sound. I don't like the sport. I don't like the name. I don't like the kitchen. I don't like anything about pickleball. Um, but one of the things that we did with this book was we challenged each other to go to something we don't like and try to find the humanity in it. Try to find what it is that people love about it, because people do love pickleball, like you said. I mean, your Asheville is just the latest place to get gigantic pickleball,
Yeah.
courts and facilities, and I mean, it is truly, they claim to be the fastest growing sport in the country, and I believe they are the fastest growing sport in the country. So what is it? And I sent Mike to WrestleMania for him to try to figure out what it is about that sport that he doesn't like. Um, and he sent me to pickleball. And so I went, with as much of an open mind and open heart as I possibly could, and did find something very special. For me, it was my friend Jackie Stiles, who was a great women's basketball player in the early 2000s. Actually, set the scoring record, the NCAA scoring record for most points in a career when she was at what was then Southwest Missouri State, and led them to the Final Four. She was a superstar. So I first met her by covering her, and then as the years have gone on, we have become friends. And she calls me up one day, probably 7 or 8 years ago, and says, "You need to come down here and play pickleball." I had a pickleball court built in my backyard. And I told her, "Jackie, I will never, ever come down there and play pickleball with you. I don't, I hate pickleball. I will not play." And then this opportunity, this chapter came along, and I went down and played pickleball with her and a bunch of her friends, leading into the tournament that I ended up having to play in. And it was really something to watch someone who was this once great athlete, still is a great athlete, but someone who had gone through numerous health issues and numerous surgeries and various other things that she's had to deal with in her life, and watching her play the sport with the love that she brought to everything she's done, and asking her what is it about pickleball, and having her say, it saved me. It saved me. It allowed me to be a competitor again. It allowed me to love sports again. And seeing that, how can you not love that? So I did find a certain love for pickleball that I did not expect, which was great fun. I'm still not going to play it. It's still not my sport. I got a couple of pickleball rackets, paddles, I guess, during that chapter. I've given them to my daughter. She loves it. She plays all the time, my youngest daughter. I have told her she's out of the will, but it's okay. It's okay as long as I don't have to do it myself, because it's not for me. I'm a tennis guy, so I kind of, what I see pickleball is as a threat. That's
Yeah.
really at the heart of why I don't like it. I see it taking over all my courts and taking over the sport that I actually do love.
Joe, you've interviewed legends throughout your career. What did writing about everyday fans teach you that interviewing Hall of Famers didn't?
Oh, I think a lot. I mean, I think when, I think a lot about the Baseball 100, the book, and that was such a joy to write. And obviously the response to it, as I mentioned, was just humbling. But that's just about greatness. That's really what it's about. I mean, it's obviously about many other things like fathers and sons and family and but it's these are the greatest players. And that's not really the whole story of baseball by any stretch. It's not even the main story of baseball. The main story of baseball, the main story of sports is failure and heartbreak, and that's just not something that the legends can talk about. They can take you inside the game like nobody else in a lot of ways, but it's really talking to somebody who has lived and died with the Mets, or somebody who's at a Montreal Canadiens game, and can remember the glory days, but it has been so long since those glory days they can barely remember it. It's about those people. It's about the feeling of watching Shohei Ohtani play that Shohei Ohtani himself cannot explain. Like, he can explain what he's doing to some degree, but he can't explain what it's like being there with your daughter in the first row, having saved up, all year for this one game that you're going to go to, and then watching him hit a home run. That's something that only really the fans can explain. And it brought me back to this belief that I have, which is that these games we often think they're about the players and they're about the owners and they're about the leagues. And they're not. They're about the fans.
Yeah.
That's the reason they exist. That's the reason why, you know, that's it's the reason we care. That's what it's really about. And so going around and getting at the heart of that and really focusing on that, focusing not at all on the other things for for a year, getting to just focus entirely on the fans was really an incredible experience.
And Joe, finally, after traveling more than 82,000 miles, meeting fans around the world, what did this journey ultimately teach you about people, not as sports fans, but simply as human beings?
Well, I think we crave opportunities to connect with each other. I think that was sort of a general theory we had coming in. But there's a moment in this book that I particularly love because it was completely unplanned. We went, me and my older daughter and her fiance and my wife went to an Italian restaurant, and it was May the 4th, and so my daughter and her fiance are big Star Wars fans, so they were dressed up. Elizabeth was dressed up as Princess Leia, and Hensley was dressed up as Han Solo. And as we were getting served, our server was kind of amused by the way that they were dressed. And he said to them something like, "Hey, Leia, what do you want to drink?" or whatever. And it was kind of funny. And then he came back a little later and kind of made another Star Wars reference that was a little more obscure. And then he came back a little later and he made another reference that was even more obscure. And it occurred to me watching this was a fan reaching out to see if he could find another fan who loved Star Wars as much as he did. Somebody who reads all the books, someone who can, tell you all about, Darth Plagueis or somebody else that I don't have any idea who that person is, even as a relative Star Wars fan. And it was really special to me to watch him and my daughter and her fiance connect in this way because no matter how deep you went, they stayed with him, and it was really brought him a lot of joy to just be able to talk about Star Wars with somebody. And I realized that's fandom. I mean, that's what, we want to be. If you're a Celtics fan, you want to be next to somebody who's just as big a Celtics fan as you are, right? You saw it this past year with New York with the Knicks, where, half the fun was seeing all these Knicks fans who had suffered together for so long have that moment together. Together is the big key. So that for me was the biggest takeaway of all, was just how much we need to be fans because of, there are many reasons, but because of the way it connects us to other people. There's so little that does. We're in a time where we are constantly being told how divided we are. And I don't think we are. I think we, when it comes to when you see it in sports and you watch people connect, you realize, yeah, I mean, we want that. We want to be with other people. We want to be connected. And so that was sort of my biggest takeaway, I think.
I mean, look at the World Cup right now going on here.
100%. I mean, and it's crazy because my wife and I have been, we've always watched the World Cup, but it's banana. We never miss a minute of the World Cup this year. And this is really driven by my wife, Margot. She is obsessed, truly, literally. She will just send me texts every day, like, don't forget 4 o'clock today, Spain, Portugal, we got to go. We got to watch. I've got snacks. I've got this. Like, we're obsessed with it. And part of being obsessed with it is we are seeing the world come to us. We are seeing the world in its own way come together. And that's such an inspiring feeling. And so, yeah, it's truly incredible.
It was, especially that one shot last week in Santa Clara of the one U.S. player after the game, and Denver's song is blasting in the whole
Oh,
stadium. It just gave me the chills, goosebumps.
it's truly wild. I mean, and for us, it has been, you watch the US and the way it brings everybody together. But then you watch all those Norwegian fans doing the rowing thing, right? And you watch all of those fans in Buenos Aires losing their minds when Messi scores another goal, and then you watch all of these fans in Paris, when Mbappe does, something magical, and you're like, we're all the same. We're all the
Yeah,
same. We all care about this stuff the same way.
it's great. Joe Posnanski's book is great too. Big fan, two friends, 82,490 miles in the wild, wonderful sports we love, co-written with Michael Schur. It's funny, insightful, heartwarming, and ultimately a celebration of the communities and passions that do connect us all. Joe, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching and for listening to the Speaking of Writers podcast. Don't forget to subscribe. We are on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, and wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Steve Richards. I will talk to you again next time.